Recording in progress.
Okay, it is that time. It is Tuesday, July 22nd. It's 5:30. We are the Lewes Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, all in attendance. Jack Faraday, Ray Quillen, Glenn Dunnington, Aaron Huertas, and myself, Mary Roth. We have Julia Kirsch with us and friends in the room. So, jumping into the agenda, first item is an update on our engagement for the Lewes Police Department Night Out. It is scheduled for Tuesday, August 5th. I know there was a little bit of a conversation at last month's meeting, which I missed, so let me go on record to say, Glenn, thank you for chairing that meeting. I don't know if anyone is available that night. We have not had a lot of turnout in the past. I know that we've talked before about maybe trying to do some increased PR on it and some other things. I think we'll have a challenge again this year because the Funsters are at, am I correct? Funsters?
Vinyl Shockley.
Vinyl Shockley is at Canal Front Park that night.
Stango. Stango Park is my concert series.
But I thought there was someone at Canal Front as
Not
well
that day.
night.
No, not that day.
Okay.
They do theirs on Thursdays.
Okay. Anyway, I think there is a rather popular band at a concert that evening that I think is going to draw people as well. So we have the trailer from DelDOT, which has the materials for a bike rodeo. It has some helmets, and we still have some bells and some other things upstairs. So we will be there. Julie, I need to confirm with you whether we have access to a table and chairs. I know you and
I
I.
will get you one. I'll make sure that we talk to Sharon and get table and chairs.
I know that we talked about the lifeguards are coming this year, and they may be somewhat situated near us, so maybe we can liven things up a little bit or something. So I don't know if anybody here is available that night. It's 5?
I'm out of town.
5 to 8.
So
5 to 8? Is that what it is?
Yep.
5 to 8, yeah. And we typically don't stay till 8 unless we have folks there. But again, we've gotten a rather small turnout in the past. So Glenn, you're out of town?
I am.
Okay. Is anybody available to drop by?
I'm working the day before for the, from 4 to 7 for the,
Trailhead?
yeah.
The safety checkpoint?
Yes.
Okay,
I should be available.
okay, great.
And I'm sorry, I'm out. I wouldn't
Okay.
be able to.
Okay,
What
well-
I've seen, that there's nobody, and then there's a little flurry of kids that
Right.
want to ride the bikes for about a half an hour, and then it dies down. But so
Yeah.
it's nice to be around for them.
Yeah, I think, and there's always somebody that comes that doesn't have a helmet or doesn't have a bell, so I think it's a good thing that we're there. So Mike, my husband, will be there, and I grabbed one of our neighbors last year as well, so I'll see if I can do that too, and we'll be good to go. So we'll see what that looks like. But I really do think it's an opportunity for us to kind of get more people out. Maybe it's just a PR thing, so maybe we can work more closely with Sharon. Sharon, next year. Next on, sorry,
So is there anything to do for setup or anything like that?
no, everything's there, we just show up.
Okay.
Approval of minutes. These minutes were actually approved at our May meeting, the 4/22 minutes. So we're good to go. I do owe you, I think, a brief edit to them, but otherwise there was a vote taken that night and they are approved. So, we have been fortunate to have a representative from the Lewes Police Department for our last several meetings, and we're loving that. So I thought I would put an item, a regular item on the agenda that just says update. There's no pressure for an update, but thought we would put it on there because that way if there was something, otherwise we get into did we post it, did we not? So, anything to update?
Not at this time.
Okay. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. All right, we're going to move into old business, where we're going to talk about our mayor and city council workshop in presentation to the mayor and city council workshop in September. But also our new business item is talking about the cycling infrastructure grant and what we will submit for that. These two topics kind of are intertwined because we're talking about infrastructure projects. One's in the bike plan, one's in something else. So just in case it gets a little confusing for anybody and we wind back and forth, we may have some overlap between these two subjects. So we are scheduled to do a presentation to mayor and city council at the workshop on Wednesday, September 24th. Here is some ideas, again, not cast in stone, just something to have us start a conversation. I think there's enough to go that way. Tell me if I did not count properly. Okay. Okay, Blue made the copies, thank you. So our idea behind presenting was, the purpose was to present our work and our priorities, the bike plan, and kind of get some feedback from council before we really jump into anything headstrong to see whether they were really supportive of one thing or another or came up with something that we weren't talking about. So some of the ideas out there was, we talked about the Lewes bike plan. On that one, you may remember that last August and September, we reviewed that bike plan when it was completed and set what this committee believed at that time to be its infrastructure priorities. I'm going to ask folks to revisit those here tonight to ensure that those are still the priorities. Jack, this was prior to joining us. So before we dive into those, I'll finish this list and then we'll go back and dive into the details. Second item for consideration is a comprehensive review and changes to the Georgetown-Lewes Trail within the city of Lewes. We've talked about safety improvements at certain crossings. We talked about Monroe and Georgetown to Lewes. We actually got another email today from folks with expressing very sincere security concerns there. We talked about the library crossing on, I'm sorry.
Dan is
Hi.
here.
That was my wife.
Oh, okay. We talked about the concern at Adams and the library crossing. We talked about the trail improvements and some of our issues with them at Gills Neck Road. And we've talked about Savannah Road and other spots. So we've talked about safety improvements. We know there's some design standard changes. The section in Lewes of the Georgetown to Lewes Trail was the very first phase, and those design standards have changed as the trail has been built, specifically from 2 bollards to 1, and some other changes as well. We talked about signage, new signage, etiquette signage, consistency of signage, stop signs, and other things. And we've talked about maybe doing some data collection out there. What does that look like and where do we go? So that's another item for us to consider to present that day. Glenn walked through the update of our committee charter that is living with legal counsel since April. We're hopeful that one-page document may return by September. Something just to make sure that we understand completely what mayor and city council's charge to us is. Education, we talked a little bit about education and what that might look like. That's part of the program aspects of the bike plan. Some of these are my suggestions or just topics for conversation, which are, do we want to do a community survey of some sort to collect feedback from the community outside of public comment at meetings? I'm not saying we want to do that before September, but is that something we want to do to be able to get some information? Are there possible ordinance changes that we want to submit? That's a lengthy process, and it's going to have to go through any number of meetings. But are there ordinance changes that we want to talk about? There are e-bikes on sidewalks these days. Do we want to talk about something like that? I'm This is not my specialty, it's the legal side. But I believe if there is an ordinance in place, then you can enforce it. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So is it something we want to talk about? No e-bikes permitted on the sidewalk. There are still some bike racks on sidewalks, especially on Second Street. Do we like that? On the sidewalk of Second Street, which becomes a little busy in the season. How do we feel about that? Don't know. Do we want to talk about parking in designated bike lanes as a consistent feature throughout the city? Do we want to talk about the right-of-way of the Georgetown to Lewes Trail? And I understand that the city of Lewes doesn't own that. That belongs to DelDOT and all that. But by preserving whatever right-of-way may exist on the side of the Georgetown to Lewes Trail is our only shot at widening that trail at some point. There's not a lot of places that widening could happen. Most of it would be between Savannah, I guess, and Kings. I don't know if there is anything between, I guess, Washington and Gills Neck, if there's any chance to widen it down there. But with all the population that's out there, widening the trail would be a wonderful opportunity. I don't even know if, anyway, just an idea I'm throwing out. So those are just a couple things tossing out there. The city currently has an ordinance that 12 and under can ride a bike, skateboard, rollerblade, that type of thing on a sidewalk. Are we good to go with that? Anybody have any issues with that? Do we want to make any recommendations outside of ordinances? Do we want to recommend that the city provides resources to make sure that Lewes Police have a bike patrol each season? Do we want bike lanes to be colored throughout the city? Do we want to think about an annual award that would recognize champions in the community for what they might do for bike and ped, whatever that might look like? Just, again, ideas thrown out there, not standing on a bandbox on any of them. But any feedback, comments on any of them?
I think they're good ideas as a starting point. I think you've done a nice job with it. It's going to take some thought from all of us about which ones we select or add to this to venture forward with it. And we need to, I guess, do it fairly quickly because we only got a couple months, before we present to the workshop.
And I just want to make sure, for the workshop, it would be nice for us to be able to make a decision about, we know we want to present the infrastructure out of the bike plan. We know that's a given. Do we think we can get ourselves together enough to go ahead and present that comprehensive review and changes we want to Georgetown to Lewes Trail? If we could, and even have the dollars and cents surrounding that, I think that'd be huge going into budget season and other things, some additional grant opportunities, et cetera. The charter, I would think, has got to be back. The rest of the items, if there are things we want to even come up with or add other ideas, as you say, we have another meeting in August to either float out as balloons of things as an idea. I'm open to thoughts.
My thought is that a couple of things that we are kind of required to pass through, hopefully the charter, like you say, and we recommend this. I think for the Lewes bike plan, we owe, for item 1, we owe, here's the bike committee's take on what the priority is out of that, to help them. Okay, and then on the education I think on item 6 and 7, I think it would be good for us to state what the issues are that we're addressing here. And say, like for bike parking, do we want to have an ordinance, no e-bike? The issue is that we're seeing restrict, there's unsafe issues, and we're being overwhelmed by the bikes, and it's just going to get worse. So we recommend some of these things, but like, as we present, state the issues, start with the issues, and these are suggestions, and they might have other ideas about what can be done to address the issue. So I'm kind of, and the same with the, and one other thing that I was wanting to add as a possible recommendation. Could we more sharrows around? There's places where we have little tiny bike lanes, like going over the bridge and stuff, where there's not enough room for a sharrow, but we expect a bike to go there. So we should paint a sharrow there and really reinforce the idea to people in the most high-stress areas that there are bikes next to you and provide a space for them. So that's an additional recommendation that would go to your, I don't know, 6 or 7. Julie, I don't know if that's how feasible that is, but it's just that's, I think that would help. But
I think sharrows are, more sharrows are good, but I'd feel a lot better if everybody knew what a sharrow was. And I think there's a lot of confusion with people when they see a sharrow.
And that falls under education, though.
Yeah.
It does, and I just want to clarify that I'm not suggesting all these items go at this workshop.
Okay.
I think that, again, I agree with you. If we're even going to begin the process of recommending an ordinance change, that's a whole agenda item for us. That's some public comment. That's all that. But I think this was a way of looking at some conversations for us to have in the future.
And perhaps a way of making that conversation happen is, here's some specific recommendations. Here's some issues
Right.
that we are facing as a city. And I mean,
And it might be that we need to do a survey first to get recommendations or feedback. I don't
well,
know. Just wanted to be able.
that would slow us down a whole lot if we did that.
And I tend to agree, Mary, but I don't know if we have the time to be able to do that between now and, September 24th.
Oh, no, this isn't, but my intent was not that all this
Okay,
goes. It's
okay,
September.
okay.
Because I think that for us to put a presentation together about the infrastructure projects, and for us to do a comprehensive review and changes and put that together for Georgetown to Lewes, that's meaty in the next 45 days.
Right.
So, and the committee charter's already out there, we're just waiting on that. But I think the other items are, maybe, and again, maybe they're even topics that we throw out there to see what reaction we get from mayor and city council
Okay.
of oh, I wouldn't go down that road, or, oh, I'm super excited about that one. I don't know.
I mean, we could do it that way, just, propose areas of investigation or areas that we're going to look into to the city council and get some feedback.
Yeah,
Whether they
and
think-
depending on the feedback, we can, dive deeper into it or take it off our list for now. Because there's no sense spending a lot of time on some issues, whether it be these or others that we may come up with, if they're not interested in it.
But the one thing I do see on here, the city provided resources ensure the Lewes Police have a bike patrol during the season. I think that's something we ought to look at now and could make a recommendation. Because I think that's very beneficial. If people see, police on bikes, then, when they're riding bikes, they're more comfortable riding and, they're probably more obedient in what they're going to do on the bikes and that.
And that all depends on whether the city has the resources to do something like that. I think that would be a good thing, to see officers on bikes and addressing some of the bike and/or pedestrian
Yeah, and I think we heard
concerns.
before that it was a resource problem.
It worked.
Past, so, it sounds like something that probably.
It worked for me. 10 years ago, I was riding my bike into town the wrong way, and we had a bike patrol officer who reminded me I shouldn't do that, and it worked. I don't do it anymore, so.
Well, and I think if I understand correctly, that it's a resource issue.
Yeah.
It's a resource issue, it's a certification issue, all that. I think we own the bikes, the city, I think all those things exist. So I think maybe it's just us saying, hey, we really support that concept, and that resource, maybe you could make that resource a priority next year, or
Exactly.
whatever that might look like.
Encourage the-
Should we
encourage that direction.
send you what we think the major issues are, so we can combine them?
Yeah, let's keep collecting them, absolutely.
And, because I think the city council would probably like to have, like, the issues that are defined and then the solution.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we can continue to collect them, and we can talk again in August. Are we and Aaron, we're all talking and not giving you a minute, so I want to make sure that anything you have to add, you are. I don't want to.
Oh, sure, yeah, keep going.
I want to make sure that we are in agreement, though. We are doing the infrastructure projects for the bike plan. We will address the education piece. Don't know what that's going to look like, but, so we are reviewing the bike plan and our priorities, and we are in agreement to present the review and changes for Georgetown to Lewes. Are we in agreement for
Yes.
all of that?
Yep.
Okay, all right. And then otherwise, feedback, whatever that looks like, and we'll keep at it. Okay.
And then so we're giving a presentation to mayor and city council, and then there's discussion and public comment.
Correct me if I'm wrong. There are no decisions made that day, but there is feedback from mayor and council.
It's an open conversation, essentially. When you come in for a workshop with mayor and council, it is an open conversation. They can ask all their questions, they can talk amongst themselves, they can ask you questions, you can ask them. So it's a collaborative effort, but there is no action taken.
But there is public comment that same day, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that what they generally do, I could be wrong, but I think that at the end of each topic, they might ask if there's public comment on that topic before they move on to
Okay.
the next agenda item. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that might be how it works.
Okay.
Am I correct in assuming that it's just us with the mayor and council, or the other?
There's usually more than one item on the agenda for the workshops.
Okay.
I do not know what else is on the agenda for that day.
What is the title of the workshop?
Mayor and council workshop.
Yeah, there's nothing on
Yeah,
the site
no.
for it yet.
It wouldn't be.
The date is reserved, but it's not.
It wouldn't be.
exactly.
And
Not
are we
until a week
confirmed
before.
we are on the agenda?
I will double check, but I
Awesome.
believe we are.
Okay.
Do we have a time limit, or is there a time limit?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay. Would you find out when the big hook will come out and get us?
Yes.
Thank you.
And the time for that is?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Okay.
And then we can sort of divvy up responsibilities outside of here as it relates to collecting information for that.
24th.
24th.
September 24th.
September 24th. Are you good? Anything?
I'm really drawn towards some of the stuff we had on the plan to designate some specific low-stress lanes, or recommended paths. We might not have space for dedicated bike lanes, but some of the stuff we talked about through 4th Street to help people get another way into town that isn't New Road. And I'm really intrigued by having consistent colored bike lanes or shared markers or those sort of things that stand out to people. So, I've looked up some design things there that people do in different cities. But if we could come with some recommendations on that and help people think about what that could look like, I think that would help. It would help underscore that we do share the roads here. And did we come down on wanting to have, only one bollard at some of those intersections and ditching the double bollards, or
I don't know if we.
no bollards at all? I forget how deep we got on that.
I don't know if we've come up to a group decision. I certainly favor a single one over two.
Yeah.
When I was with the Sussex Bike Club last week, one of the guys said, look, I thought there were places where they don't have any. I mean, what's the rule for having one? I mean, I would think there are places where we don't need one. And is there a place where we could remove two and say, let's just try it with zero and see if there's an issue? I mean, there's no.
So I'm going to jump in on that one. So we have to remember that we're talking about a DelDOT facility that is managed by the city of Lewes.
Right.
So we are going to fall into DelDOT world as it relates to what the bollards look like, whether you have a bollard or you don't. You're going to fall into their design standards. I think where we're going to be able to have a conversation about 2 to 1 is because their design standards have changed from 2 to 1.
Oh, okay.
And that's why Gill's Neck, and in this direction, that section of the trail is the very first section, and that was their design standards at the time. And there was some conversation amongst folks at the time, because trails were relatively new, if that's what you want to say, where people thought that you would drive onto them by mistakes, and so
Yeah.
that's where the
So my
bollards
other
came from.
question would be in terms of what's your design standard that defines where a bollard is needed?
Right, and I think that's why if this is what we're going to do, and we're going to make this recommendation, then we're going to need to work with DelDOT on what our requirements will be along there and what we can and cannot do.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's where we'll get into the bollard conversation. If there is an opportunity for us to make a decision, then we can make that one.
And the other item that we've talked about a lot, I feel like we don't have specific next steps on it because we've racked our brains a lot about bike parking and where there are additional places we could put bikes. I'd love to get the whole council's thoughts on that, or at least just use it as an opportunity to keep it top of mind as there's other developments or potential use cases coming, because I think that's something we always have our eyes out for, particularly in the summer when Mary Vessels Park gets pretty packed.
I don't think we'll have an issue with bike parking anymore because Julia gave us a picnic table to draw everyone to the bike corral.
The picnic table is going to be what draws people to the bike corral.
I hope so. Yeah.
It's the free snacks and sodas at the picnic table that really draw people.
It's not in my budget.
But agreed, Aaron, there is another place for bike parking now. Since we pulled out that parking meter, the parking stuff there, the change machine,
Yep.
There's a room for a couple of bikes to go there and a couple of those U-shaped things. So that's a little bit, but that
Yeah.
would help.
And as a result of the picture from 4th of July and the electric bikes, especially on the grass, there is a sign that will go up. It's not a permanent sign. It sort of looks like the yard sign that will go up in Mary Vessels that states no bike parking on the grass.
Good.
Yeah, so.
But then they'll switch to the gardens.
No.
If we have to tell you not to park in the flowers, we're taking your bike away. That's how it works.
How's that for enforcement?
Okay, bike parking, got it. We'll add that, we'll keep at that one. We need to talk about infrastructure priorities, because that's still on our mayor and council. But before we do that, because I love people that come to our meetings, and I hate to make them suffer. So we are in agreement, we're going to do the comprehensive review and changes to Georgetown to Lewes. Part of that includes safety improvements. Would you like to say anything to us while you're here?
You have to come up to the microphone, state your name and address, please.
Hello, Dan McRaven, I live at 405 Railroad. As Ray said, we back right up to the bike trail. Our backyard pretty much is the bike trail. So we, on a daily basis, sit on the back porch and watch traffic interacting at that intersection. And I know, because I've been through it a little bit, otherwise, I know that it comes down to being a DelDOT intersection, but I've never seen DelDOT patrolling that road. I know the Lewes police do. I daily watch people accelerate from the stop, if they've even stopped, on Railroad and Monroe, and try to make the light. They can't see approaching bikes. The bikes can't see the cars. And it's not so much adults. I mean, most adults, pay attention. But a lot of times there's young families, and the kids will get ahead of the parents. Just this past weekend, which prompted my wife to write in, was a girl came within inches of being hit by a box truck there. And
Can you explain that to,
she
the
went,
girl
she
on the
went
trail?
through, she went through the trail and, went across the street. The truck did not see her, and, because she's coming from behind the house. And, we have a lot of...
Was she behind your house or the other side coming across?
She was on the other side coming across.
Because I think that is more problematic, because when I come out there, looking on to the left as I'm getting ready to go behind your house.
Right.
There's some, I don't know, vegetation, flowers or something there, and it's blocks.
Yeah, well, it's not just that. We used to have a fence that I removed. We had a six-foot fence that obstructed everyone's visibility even worse. But it's as much people just not paying attention, or, you're talking about removing bollards, as people that don't want to stop because they're exercising, or it's tourists that aren't familiar with the fact that the vehicles don't have to stop.
Do you
And
not
a lot
have
of
stop
times
signs?
I
There are
think
no stop signs on Monroe?
There
They're-
are,
I thought there were stop
but
signs
they're
on
not the
Monroe.
consistent ones.
they're ignored repeatedly, but
No, on Monroe, not on the trail.
Oh,
on Monroe, yeah, there's a four-way stop. And I think that's part of the issue. People know there's a four-way, they don't see a car, so they roll through. And I know, Lewes police have sat there in the past, and it's well and good for locals, because, after a while of a police officer sitting there, then people slow down. But for people from out of town, especially, like I said, now with the light there at the end, they're like, ooh, it's green, let me try to make that. And they're just blowing right through there. And I've even some signage on the bike path that just reiterates the fact that cars are not required to stop. I think a lot of people ride up and they see the yellow signs, and from the back, they're assuming it says something to the cars to stop.
Right.
So I know there's a lot of dangerous intersections, but I feel like, that's a good picture there, that the cars coming from that stop really cannot see bikes approaching, and people from out of the area.
You're talking, though, about the bikes approaching on the trail, not on or
Correct,
down,
correct.
further
Yeah,
down.
we see a lot of times
There.
people that are parked at that trailhead that are not using the trail from the library. They use Monroe and then get on the trail in either direction, so they're coming at cars, but, they're visible. It just makes it more congested, but. Yeah, I know you've done the lights in other areas, and it's almost like I would pull the stop signs from Monroe and Railroad and put them there, and I know you have to get in, probably in with DelDOT on that, but, I oftentimes it comes back to saying, well, it's a state intersection, but it's not going to say child killed in the state. It's going to say child killed in Lewes when
Isn't
someone gets
Monroe
hit there.
a city street?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just that intersection. I know sometimes when we've talked with the state before, the city interacted with us and the state, when we had meetings when they were constructing the path. And there, as you're aware, the path was next to the railroad. Then the railroad got pulled out, so it's up against the houses.
Right.
I don't know if they do like they did at Gill's Neck and move the path out some, that would also help. But
That's
as
the challenge with losing the right-of-way there with
well,
everything that's happened there.
it's a railroad right away, so, you could get into that, that's a whole nother issue, but, yeah, it's, I think that at least in the interim, till they come up with a better solution, at least some increased signage, both for the cars and for bikes, would go a long way. And I've been on bike trails in other areas where they put an actual corral at the end of some of the busier places, which I know is hated by bicyclists, but it forces them to actually weave around or to stop and get off their bike at that point.
What do you mean by a corral?
So you would come up to an intersection and you come into fencing
Right.
that you have to turn left and then right again to go through. It's too tight to maneuver on a bike, so it forces you to stop and get off and,
Traffic calming, but for bikes.
yeah,
This
or
is-
cattle
this is
crossing.
The trail, and you would have to go around like this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they're very unpopular with bicycles. But, yeah.
See Ray's face.
Yeah, I know, and then you end up with a hazard at night too, or something if it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
appropriately. But I'm just saying, I think it's a very, it's a serious safety hazard at that intersection. I know it's not the only one, but I just.
No, but it's significant. It's significant.
It is a big area.
So, Dan, we appreciate you coming tonight, and as you heard, we're going to work on a presentation by September. Okay for us to reach out to you or your wife and continue this conversation and see as we continue it as well, and hope, because our goal would be, by the time we present something in September, that we would have community support for it. So
Right, okay,
if you're up for that, we'd like to continue the conversation with you.
yeah,
Great,
all right.
okay. Thank you for
Thank you.
being here.
Thank
We
you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Lewes Bike Plan, infrastructure projects and priorities. Last year, and Jack, pretend you were here last year, we prioritized short-term, mid-term, and long-term. And some progress has been made on some of those. So Sussex Drive and DeVries Circle is part of a TAP project with DelDOT, and that work continues today, correct? Okay. Short-term, 4th Street, New Road to Savannah, Ship Carpenter Street, I'm not aware of any work that's going on there.
I'm a little lost here. Can we number the pages?
Oh, sorry, they're-
What's really short term? What do we start with?
So do Lewes Bike Plans, flip it over as short-term,
Okay.
okay? So it is, short-term is recommendation number 5, 3, 10, and 6,
10 and 6, okay.
okay? Sorry about that, got to learn to put page numbers on. And these correspond to the bike plan itself, which is on the website as well as, okay.
Okay, yeah, let's do, can we start on page numbers and these things? So what is the
Yes.
first page is this,
First page is that, flip, page 2,
2,
10 is at the top of page 3,
10 is at the top,
Yeah.
page 3,
flip
Move your
4,
microphone.
then over
In
to
front of you,
4, 4 is the top of 4,
yep, 2A,
2A is top of 5, and
6.
2B is top
Okay.
of 6. Cool, thank you.
Okay. Also, under midterm, Savannah Road and Massachusetts Avenue intersection is also a DelDOT TAP project that they are working with the city. That's number 9, recommendation number 9,
And that's on
Page 3.
Page 3,
number 9,
okay.
okay? Those are the two updates on the priority projects that we had, okay? We wasn't planning to go through all of these tonight, just to kind of gauge to make sure in the last year somebody didn't think that something wasn't important. And we don't really have to spend a lot of time in these tonight because, again, on our next agenda item, we're going to dive back into these anyway.
Okay, thanks.
So maybe we're better served to kind of move on to the grant discussion because that'll let you dive into these a little bit. So hang on to this document and your pages, okay? All right. Next item on the agenda is August 31st is the application deadline for the Delaware Bicycle Council Cycling Infrastructure Innovation Grant. That's not a mouthful, nothing is. Here you go. What I'm handing out are, keep going, one more. What I'm handing out is a review of the grant, which I know many of you have seen. Keep going, Julia, one more. Maybe, I might want it to come back again. Hang on. No, okay. What you will also find on page, again, no page numbers, just let's go on record. So, this is an overview. It's from Delaware Bike Council website. I know I sent out the link, and I know folks had a chance to dive into it, so you may have seen this and reviewed essentially. There is some additional information because I reached out after getting some of your feedback to Delaware Bicycle Council to get some more specifics and some details. So that's the additional information. We do have the opportunity to submit more than one application if that's what we choose to do. Chances of getting 2 awards is slim, but we do have the opportunities to submit 2 so that something could be a priority. They have about $50,000 this year or a little bit more than that. They're either going to fund a more expensive study for a larger project or they're going to try to award 3 grants. I don't know what the little more means, whether it's 55, whether it's 60, whether it's 75. What must go along with this is a quote from an engineering firm. So and I know that Mayor Marasco is interested in what we are going to propose and has encouraged us to make at least one proposal for this grant. So I know that we'll be looking at GMB to help us with that engineering quote because we will need one. They've made it very clear that this is for engineering analysis of feasibility and cost only. Can't have any outreach in it, can't have any of that other stuff in it. They are only looking for engineering analysis of a feasibility study and cost. Ray, you made the recommendation to see if we could look at making the changes we want to make to Georgetown to Lewes in this trail. So that was one of the questions that I asked, and essentially the answer was no. It would be highly, highly unlikely. In the 13 grants they've given, they gave one a number of years ago, but they said it would be highly unlikely they would fund something. They're really looking for feasibility studies. So that's where that question came from. The 1 to 13 is just an example of the different grants through the years. And again, many of those are online under Bike Council if you want to look at it. So some of the recommendations that you all put forward and we all put forward was whether we could consider any lighting improvements at Savannah and Kings Highway intersection. Jack, when you and I attended the DelDOT safety check, and I don't remember his name, I don't know if you do, one of the Lewes police officers was talking to us about, Phil, about, because we had 3, so we're not sure which one it was. But anyway, he was talking about last year, I think it was, at 3rd and Savannah.
Was it Third and Savannah or the,
Wasn't it? Was it 3rd or 2nd?
I guess Third.
I
Yeah,
think it was 3rd
yeah,
and
yeah.
Savannah, where there was a very, very close call, just it's poor lighting that's out there, and a very, very close call with a girl on a bicycle, I believe it was. So, so that was an idea of whether we could include some lighting in the study. Glenn, I think you talked about Sussex Drive and DeVries, but now that we know that's a DelDOT TAP project, that's moving forward with funding from another source, so that's a good thing. Long-term plan, I think, Aaron, you talked about long-term plan for number 7 in the plan, which is Savannah Road to Gill's Neck. And I think if we get into the plan, number 7 has a couple of options in it. But I think when I went back and I read some of our comments for number 7. One of the options anyway, and some of the notes from our meeting was that we considered 7B to be the vision of the plan, that it was safe and comfortable for all ages and abilities. We understand it's a long-term vision project. It's as designed, it makes it clear bikes, peds, and cars all share Savannah Road, safest opportunity for all modes. It would require additional coordination, and we would, it's got some long-term funding. The bike plan states its next piece would be a feasibility study. So we can look at that one, that is something we should look at.
That one, that's one of the biggest issues we have in terms of congestion in town, and getting to a solution is where we are on that, I think, now. And to have that done with a firm recommendation that's approved, that's approved by other people, everyone, that would be, I think, an excellent one.
I think it's a really good, Blue, do you mind, can you pull up the bike plan off of our page, please?
I'm not sure if that fits all the requirements.
Well, I think it might fit the requirements. I think our challenge with this is, we may have to put this may, there we go. It may have to be in pieces, because I'm not sure there's enough money in a feasibility plan for this one. But maybe there's a way to piecemeal it, take at least a bite out of it in some way. While Blue is doing that, Blue, looks like maybe page 29 or 30. It's it's number 7. Is that you? There we go. There's option A, long-term, option B, short-term, and option B, long-term. So I think they're all about that section of Savannah Road.
Yep.
I have one wants to. I think the only low-stress bikeway signage and road marks are not going to be an option for this grant.
Right.
Just because
Yeah.
of the specifics. And I think the other one in the bike plan that would be an option from a feasibility study standpoint would be it's new road shared use path connection. It's one of those other Post-it notes in there. It's actually new road from Captain's Circle to 4th Street. It's also in the plan, what is the number? It's number 3? No, 2. It's number 2, page maybe 20 or 21. That also is another one that requires a feasibility study. I don't think it has the impact that Savannah Road has, but.
Could I make just one comment on the options for Savannah Road? I have a hard time looking at this because, making a recommendation, because it seems like there's elements of multiple of the options that could go together, that those don't seem to be the only way you can address the issue. And that, like, some of the stuff in the middle of the road is good, and so no, there's a mixture of solutions from those options that I think would be optimal. But of course, that's me, and that's what I would like that study, if we could get, to help us understand, so we can make a decision.
Of what would be the,
So, I mean, the issue is the congestion and the bikes and the cars together. And what's the best way to do it? Somebody came up with these 3 sets of options, and including different mechanisms.
Okay.
There's different ways of combining those possibly to address the issue that might work better than this. And a study would help us understand that. What's the best way to address the issue of people getting over that bridge into this intersection?
that is not this intersection. We're not going over the bridge with this project.
Okay, well, I don't mean over, but
Okay.
if we can,
Because
well.
this is 4th Street, 3rd Street, and up. This
but-
is Savannah.
But the solutions define the intersection, I mean, understood. But
Okay.
It's getting off the bridge is part of the solution, because it addresses how the lanes work here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Aaron, anything?
so I don't know if anybody else feels the same way on that, but that's not necessarily option A, B, or C, is what I'm saying.
And I'm trying to think back to what the firm said about these, because if I'm following what you're saying, if you look at the last long-term option, would there still be space for these pedestrian islands? And because they're not depicted on that plan. And that final plan, they were talking about having street-level bike lanes next to the sidewalks. So you'd be utilizing the entire width of Savannah Road to make these infrastructure changes. That's really compelling. The pedestrian refuge islands make a lot of sense too, but I don't think there's enough space to do both.
Ray, Jack?
And the refuge islands, I think, were the folks coming to and from all the BB facilities. I think they would like those a lot, because you often see them waiting for people to stop at crosswalks and they don't stop. And those would also potentially integrate plantings, or another thing that was interesting about those islands and the way some other communities have done them is they've been able to integrate local plants, art, what have you. And we have that a little bit at the entrance to the town by the brewery. We have some Lewes and Bloom stuff out there, but I think that'd be more. I think there's some interesting collaborations we could do with a project like that, that also are more innovative than just saying it's a bike plan or it's more bike lanes. I think it would help. It would help speak more to character of town things, and potentially give us something that you can show off as a bicycle-friendly community. So that might be more attractive if we're trying to win an award for something.
Yeah, I think rather than there's not enough room for both bike lanes and the islands, and I think the islands would definitely be
Yeah,
preferable.
They kind of slow people down.
They slow traffic down, they slow people down, they would just, and they're enhance, just the atmosphere of the, it looks nicer,
It looks good on paper, it looks good in the plan, but in reality, I don't think both of them, the islands and the bike lanes, would work, and I question whether even the lanes would work. I just don't think there's enough room. There's not enough room right now without any of that stuff. And what are you going to do when you have trucks making deliveries that are parking in the street there? I mean, it's a real issue.
Yes, but if people go really slow and they know, this is like somebody's backyard, whatever, then it looks like a living place, then you're less likely to get damaged, I think. But yeah, you got to move the buildings back.
So where does that leave us? Is there something not in the plan that we want to propose a feasibility study done for? I mean, one thing that sort of came to mind, but then winding through the details was, we've been having this conversation about other aspects of Savannah Road and down by the the brewery and Dutchman's and all that, and what does that look like? But the challenge there is it's not all the city of Lewes.
Right.
And so that presents a problem in trying to submit this grant. So,
I still can't get my head around how one side of the street is the city of Lewis and the other side of the street is, I don't know, USA or the county.
Sussex County.
Unincorporated county, yeah.
Yeah. So we have to stay within the bubble
So that-
of the city of Lewes.
So to me, this feasibility would be how you address the traffic situation with the constrained space that we have. What's the best way? The report we have here shows 3 options. Okay, now let's take those 3 options and then relook at the problem and say, is this the feasibility study? How do we have cars and bikes coexist? And especially as growth continues.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would fit their requirements for a study, but to me, that's summarize it.
Well, and I think too, again, we're going to have to wait and see what the engineering cost is and whether we're going to have, whether we only take a bite out of this. Go ahead.
I'm a little confused. We're talking about feasibility study, and it seems some of these that were approved in the past were more than just doing a feasibility study. They're the actual implementation, no?
Of these 13 items here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No,
These
these
were the
were just-
feasibility studies for
feasibility
these. And then the
studies. Okay.
idea is the concept of the grant is that with the feasibility study, you're going to take it to the next step.
Now I understand.
And then find funding for implementation. So
Yeah.
again, we are, unless for some reason they were so compelled by the project we put forward, we should look at probably 25,000, I would think, as what our grant would be.
Right, right.
And then I think the question is going to be is how much of this would a feasibility study cost? Or
Yep.
how much of this
Yeah,
project?
that could get eaten up very quickly.
Yeah.
But still, okay. Or starting, as far as you can go, a starting point. I mean, this is the big, I just feel weird about having it on a problem that's not so big. Let's start to address the biggest problem we have, besides e-bikes.
And this grant is going to fix that. So the other significant, this is a major problem. Do we want to see, we have till the end of August. Writing the grant is that challenging. It's the engineering piece that's going to be,
We have to have the engineering quote before the end of August?
yes, it has to go in with the grant. So we've got to begin,
Tomorrow.
So, hypothetically speaking, we say, let's look at this problem from 3rd Street to Gill's Neck, right? Isn't that our geography here?
Yes.
Okay, 3rd Street to Gill's Neck. Or, actually, it's like half the block before 3rd Street, looks like.
To the Gills Neck intersection.
To the Gill's Neck intersection, correct. So, we go to the engineer, and engineer's like, no, that cost to that is going to be way too much. Pick your priority. Do we stick with this one and say, okay, just do 3rd Street, just do Gill's Neck intersection? Because we've got another project for Gill's Neck intersection. Or do we say, no, here's our other option, or
The lighting would be good.
I don't think lighting's going to fly for cycling
Cycling
infrastructure.
Okay.
You might be able to get it in the feasibility study to improve it, but you're not going to get the grant for it. It's not cycling infrastructure. So the other side is the SS4A safety grant that's out there. Has a pop-up project for advisory shoulders on Gill's Neck, right? It does. Trust me on that one.
Trust you.
But we don't know that, we don't know that there's a feasibility study or anything in that grant for Gill's Neck. We just know there's a pop-up project, right, for advisory
It's on hold.
that's on hold, that we think is going to go live in the fall, but we don't know for sure. Is there any, again, that's when I say, is there anything outside the plan that we want to say, oh, let's do a feasibility study for that? Is Gill's Neck that section from the trail or
What is the
Freeman
status of
Bridge
that?
to that?
What is the status of that recommendation or idea?
It's on hold, it's a federal grant.
So, would a feasibility study showing the value of it and where it's worked in other areas and all that? That wouldn't speed up a federal grant at all.
The challenge with advisory shoulders also is, as in this, we've got advisory shoulders on Pilot Town in this plan. They are experimental, and before we could even consider it, they've got to be approved. And I don't know what that approval process looks like these days. I have no idea.
Who by who?
I believe FHWA through DelDOT, but I think it's federal highways. Might be wrong about it. It's definitely DelDOT, but for some reason I think it's FHWA because they've deemed them experimental,
Okay.
I think.
Sure. The things that we need to get done that would fit into
We want to ask the question about a feasibility study for 7? See what the cost is?
I'd love to have some numbers on that.
Like, see what that looks like?
That would be good to know.
Julia, I'll follow up with you tomorrow on how we do this fun stuff.
And is it worth also asking about the islands? Like with that, I assume that would be, a firm would have to give you 2 quotes, right? They're so different.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, how long is it going to take to get this done? So we're gonna have to-
Right. So if we were doing, we've got bike lanes versus center islands, right? We got to, what's the priority? Center islands or bike lanes?
I think Center Islands, from my perspective.
I don't know if it's priority. I think it's the preference
Preference?
would be,
I would go along with that, only because
Yeah.
I would like to see discouraging bike traffic on Savannah anyway, even though I've ridden it, but
The 2 issues are, I think, getting the bikes and the cars along the road there, and then the other issue is, what does the intersection look like at Savannah and Gill's Neck? And they're kind of separate, I think, and they were, the issue here is they've been combined in ways that don't always fit. But, yeah, I mean, is it better to have bike lanes, or is it better to have, maybe we break it down, better to have islands? And what's the feasibility of getting those done? Or is perhaps narrow enough?
Well, and I think, I mean, we also have to be realistic, because our goal for this is to go ahead and get a grant for a feasibility study that then allows us to move on to the next step and get this thing done.
Yes.
So what do we think our chances
Of getting it done.
of getting bike lanes along Savannah, along that stretch?
Yeah, I think the interference with parking would be pretty tough.
Yeah.
And I think the islands seem more feasible in the medium term or long term, so it'd be good to have some numbers on it. And also one shared feature of both of those plans, now that I've looked at this for a few minutes, is some of the calming around 3rd and Kings, which we've identified as a dangerous intersection that has some blind spot aspects to it.
Around where?
So where 3rd and Kings intersect with Savannah.
Right here.
Yeah, right by the Swanendale Museum.
Oh, right.
Yep. Yeah.
And this one does as well. I mean, I think we all will agree that we've always said, we think that's the most dangerous intersection in Lewes. I mean,
We got another contender now.
yeah.
Well, the other dangerous intersection, I think, is the corner of the front Gill's Neck and Savannah.
Yeah.
The other question would be, what's the best way for managing what's the best, most feasible way of managing and balancing the traffic of bikes and pedestrians there? Who are we asking the quote from?
GMB.
Maybe we just pose that there's two issues here, which could you address?
We pay for however many they do. So if we're asking them to do 3 different feasibility studies and get us 3 different quotes, we're going to be paying a
Okay.
lot more money.
I understood.
But
That's
we're all,
good to know.
he's just giving us a quote for a feasibility study.
Right, but we still pay them
We
for
pay
their.
for the
Right,
quote.
but the quote,
But I'm saying there's two. At max, I would see two. One is, what do you do here to manage the traffic?
well, he's going to feasibility study this project that you're looking at. They're not going to come up with a new idea. It's a feasibility study for this project.
But I think they're addressing it incorrectly here, that the issue is the traffic along here and the intersection here. And that they've said it's this solution, that solution, or that solution. I don't think that's correct. I think that you can have these, how you calm the traffic here might be different than how you manage the traffic at the intersection.
But
That's
is
what
that
I'm
their
getting at.
bailiwick, that they look at that, or they just look at what the cost is, what the feasibility, just look at the cost of doing different alternatives that you propose to them? You know, you're asking them now to make almost planning and design things. So are we asked, I don't think that's their lane for engineering study. You got to come in with something more concrete and say, give us this feasibility, give us the feasibility study for
Who's
doing
going to have the
this.
discussion with GMB on, okay, so.
And
can-
me.
Can you
I would
ask
be doing
them,
as well.
here's our thought process, we'd like to, there's two ways of doing it. What's the feasibility of option A, B, C, or I'm suggesting it might be looked at differently. What's the solution for calming the traffic, and what's the solution for the intersection? And have that conversation with them and ask them if they have any
Bless you.
suggestions that won't cost us money before we start, and say, okay, we'll pay you for after that conversation, you make a decision to pay for a quote for something.
Okay, I think we're going to end up with a couple of different options, even if it's 2, because I think it's going to be way too much money. But that being said, let me go back, so I think I understand path forward on 7. Any other projects that we've not talked about that might be a possibility? Or no, this is the best recommendation we would have for a feasibility study?
I have none in mind.
That's good.
That's it? Anything? No? Okay. That's our go-do.
Cool.
Do we have any more public comment?
No, doing a good job.
Nobody online either.
Thank you for being here. Do we have, no one, did anyone visit us?
Nope.
Well, that just hurts my feelings. Okay, then, if anybody wants to make a motion to adjourn, I'll take it.
I motion we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are.